In this video, we're going to learn how to complete SIMNet projects. We'll learn the basics of completing a project and submitting it for automated grading, and then we'll learn how to analyze the grading feedback in order to utilize our multiple attempts at completing the project in order to maximize our grade. Let's get started. Here I am in our Canvas course site, and as you can see, I'm in the modules section, and I've scrolled down to the first of the SIMNet projects. That's the Word Chapter 1 project. Let's open up that screen and see what it looks like and what the features are. Here we are on our Word Chapter 1 project screen in SIMNet. Let's take a look at some of the features on this screen. First of all, here in the upper right, we have our date block, which includes the start date when the assignment became available to be worked on, the all-important due date, which is the deadline by which the assignment needs to be submitted in order to gain credit for completing it, and then we have the end date, which may or may not be the same as the due date, depending upon how the assignment was set up. Looking further, we have three blocks across the top of the screen. We have the download block, the upload block, and the submit block, and we'll get into the details of these three blocks here shortly. Here in the view area, we have multiple options. We have the instructions option, previous attempts, and best practices. At this point, I'd like to focus on the instructions option. The first thing you'll notice at the top of the instructions is a slider for Windows or Mac, and you'll want to set that slider accordingly depending upon whether you're working on a Windows computer or a Mac computer, because there are differences between Office for Windows and Office for the Mac, and setting your slider to the right setting will account for most of those differences as you work through the instructions. Now, I'm going to refer to these instructions as a cookbook because it's kind of like preparing a recipe in your kitchen and working with a cookbook. You'll be following along with a set of steps, and as you work through your project, you'll follow it step by step, and then eventually when you're finished, you'll end up with a finished product that looks like the picture at the bottom of the instructions, at the bottom of the cookbook. So that's how we'll work with this for the rest of this video. Scrolling back up here to the top of the cookbook, in order to begin working on your project, you have to download something called a start file. And as the name suggests, it's the file that you start with in order to begin working through your cookbook. So the start file is located here in this download block, and you'll click on the link that says Start File. When you click on it, it will download your file, and you'll see a link to it here at the bottom of your browser. Click that link, and it will open up your document in Microsoft Word. You'll click Enable Editing, and now you're ready to begin working through your cookbook step by step and modifying this document. As you work through it, you can mark your progress and it will keep track and highlight the next step for you. And eventually, you'll complete the cookbook and your finished product should look something like this picture at the bottom of the procedure. In my case, it's going to look something like this. As you can see, my finished product looks pretty close to the picture shown at the bottom of the cookbook. That means that I'm ready to save it and submit it for automated grading. So here's what we do. I come back to my document and I do the file save to save it. Then I close it. And then I scroll back up to the top of my SIMNet project screen and I use the middle block here that says Upload My File. When I click Upload My File, I'm presented with a File Explorer window and I need to navigate to the folder where my document is located. If I haven't relocated it to a different folder, it's going to have ended up in the Downloads folder. That's the folder by default where files that you download through your browser end up. And since we downloaded this start file through our browser, the Downloads folder is where it ends up if I haven't relocated it. Now, this is important. It's possible that while you were working on your project, you might have saved multiple copies of it. So if we look in our download folder, it looks like I have multiple copies of the same file, and it looks like they have the same name. But that's because the full name is hidden from me. And in order to expose the full name, we need to go up here to the top of the columns, and alongside the name column, move our pointer so that it becomes a resizing handle, and stretch it out with our mouse. And now we can see the whole file name, and you can see that each of these 4 files that I have all have different names. But that's not even the most important part. The most important part is here in the date modified column. What you're always looking for when you submit your file is the most recent date and timestamp on that file. That's how you know that you've got the most recent one that you worked on and that you don't accidentally submit the wrong one. You get 3 attempts at your project, but while that's fairly generous, those attempts are also precious, and you don't want to waste an attempt by selecting the wrong file. So observe the date modified column and look for the most recent file that has the name that you're looking for. In my case, here it is with the latest date. So I'm going to select it, and it will upload the file and then ask me if I'm ready to submit it for grading. In most cases, you will be ready. So you'll go ahead and click yes, and it will automatically grade your project. And there it is. And as you can see, I got a 90 on this project. There were 20 grading items, and I got 18 of them correct. It looks like I got a couple of those grading items wrong, but I got a 90, and that's a pretty solid score. In the next video, I'll show you how to analyze the results on this screen so that you can use your additional available attempts and maximize your score on your project assignment.